I would now like to welcome our very special guest, as I said, a very old and dear friend. Old as since kindergarten. My very dear friend, Deborra Furness, the patron of success. Thank you. Tell you a little bit about this wonderful woman. She is a graduate of the American Academy of Dramatic Arts in New York. She worked in the theatre in New York and then was in a television series, an American television series called Falcon Crest. When she returned to Australia, she was cast as the lead in what has become an iconic Australian film called Shame, directed by Steve Jodrell. Deborra was awarded a Film Critics Award of Australia, the San Sebastian International Film Festival, and Seattle International Film Festival Best Actress Award for her work in that film. She starred in over 20 feature films, including Blessed, Gingerbine and Angel Baby, and over 20 television series. And in 1995, she was cast as the lead in a television series called Corelli, and got to work opposite a newcomer.
We all know where that led.
In fact, probably everybody's dreamed to fall in love with his co-star, but even better for it to have lasted. Deb has 2 children. She is a director, and she's also a great advocate for the rights of children. She's an ambassador for World Vision. She is a patron of the Lighthouse Foundation and has been very crucial in changing our awareness of adoption in Australia and the laws of adoption, which we will talk about shortly. So Deb, welcome to 16th Street.
Thanks for having me. I'm impressed you remembered all that.
I'm going to ask just a few questions, and I really encourage you to think of some questions you might like to ask. So I'll just ask a few questions, covering some areas, and then please...
Yeah, I like to have a conversation. I always think it's better if we just talk. And I want it to be your agenda. I'm going to sit here and tell you what I want to... I want to know what you guys want to know, and we can talk here. And as I said, it's great for me to be here too with Kim, when I think that we were very young together when we all started out. And just being here today and together, and I've also got another girlfriend here who, when I went to New York to study at the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, Susan Gorence over here, we were in the same class together, and I introduced her to a very spunky Greek boy from Melbourne. And she ended up coming over here. So we've got a lot of history here. Anyway.
When I first met you as a teenager, I remember you had an incredible largesse of spirit. And years have not flagged that generosity and largesse of spirit. What would you say that either you had or you've developed as kind of the guiding principles of your life, or indeed the philosophy that you have attempted to live your life by?
I think I just had a naivete and a huge curiosity. I just sort of went into the world, and I was an only child of a single mum, and who just thought I was Christmas. So I went out into the world literally thinking that everyone would think I'm fabulous. And at my first audition, I remember going to my first audition and I didn't get it. And I was literally like, what? I was gobsmacked. But how can you not want me? So I think that having that confidence there from a mother who just was totally devoted to me and gave me the security to do what I wanted to do. I remember when I said, Mom, I think I want to be an actor, and she's like, fine. I don't think she was overly thrilled, but she allowed me to follow my bliss and to follow my dream to do that. And I'm so grateful for her, and I'm trying to incorporate that with my children, because I think so many times we put on our friends and our children what we want or how we want them to be. So that was the greatest lesson for me, was that my mother let me be. And I think we are all the best when we are completely authentic. Even if it's not the mainstream or it's not what other people want us to be. I know when I try to be something that I'm not, it just gets me in trouble. So I think I got that very early on, that I had to stick to my authenticity. I remember my first television interview and I was terrified. I had to promote a film, and just before it was sitting there, the guy said, I said, I'm really nervous. And he said, just act like a movie star. And I went, how did I act? And I just remember thinking, and it was like so scary. And in that moment, I just went, I can't do that. I just got to be me. And so I think that's been what's kept me going, is I just got to keep going back. Whether anyone likes it or not, this is who I am.
I remember speaking to you about the influence of growing up with a single mum because your dad died when you were very young.
Mm-hmm.
That influence of actually, obviously your mother thought you were just wonderful, but what else was the influence of growing up with a single mother, and then who else have been the really informative influences on your life, and why and how?
Okay, so when I grew up, it was the world that was a bit Mad Men. You know the show Mad Men? In Australia at that time, it was a little chauvinistic, and my mother, because she was a single mother, was really the only woman in the office, and she was an important woman. She was an accountant, and she sort of ran the show. So I grew up thinking that women ran the show, and that they were in charge, and that they, you know, were the ones that made all the calls. And I think when I sort of became a teenager, I went out into the world and I saw a very different world. And this is very interesting, I've always found, that as a young girl growing up, little girls, the first person that they learn to seduce is dad. So we sort of, that's where we learn our feminine wiles, and we get dad wrapped around a little finger. I didn't do that trick. So I remember as a teenager sort of watching my girlfriend sort of do this sort of manipulation thing of getting what they want. And I was like, I didn't learn that. I didn't know how to do that. So I sort of went into the world with a different perspective, thinking that women were the ones that were doing it. And it was not like that at that stage. And we still know that it's still not like that. There's still not equality out there. But I think that belief system got me through pursuing and thinking that I could do what I wanted to do.
For me, I don't know about you, but for me, most of the important lessons that I've learnt in life have come through incredible difficulty and struggle.
Don't you hate that?
I know. Has that been your experience, and what have those experiences been, and what have you learned?
What, you want to tell me all the bad? Oh, let's share that. No, but I think we learn from both. I constantly learn every day. I really mean that, and I don't just learn from the bad stuff, but obviously the things that are hard for us show, it teaches us our character. Like, it takes courage. It takes courage to do the things, and I personally hate it. If I'm scared of something, I hate that feeling myself. It makes me feel vulnerable, and I don't like that. So I'd say one of my better qualities is courage, because I push myself through that, because I just can't tolerate that I could be scared of something. I mean, me stepping up to be an actor, and everyone always goes now, oh, Deborah, you were never shy, whatever. I actually think that it cost me a lot. When I took myself up to drama school in New York, it was the other side of the world. I had no idea where I was going. And I was this young sort of innocent, you know, like it was Alice in Wonderland. I get to New York, and it's this huge city. And I put my hand up to say, I can do this. I had no clue if I could do that. It was a huge leap of faith that I went to the other side of the world to learn, to see if I could do this. So I think pushing ourselves beyond our boundaries, that's our fears. I hate to think that fear would stop me. And when I have pushed through my fear and I get to the other side, it's the most liberating feeling. It's just personally, and the outcomes of that, because it has cost you, the benefit you get to, it's sweet, you really get to enjoy it. So I had to push through a lot when and I think of the American culture too. Like, I got to school, and I think Americans at that time grew up in school being public speaking, standing up in class, and, hi, I'm Bobby, and I'm this and that, and it's very, you know, they're just like the Mickey Mouse show, you know, it's very outspoken. We grew up like that. Our personality in Australia, I think we were a little more humble. We didn't advocate for ourselves. It was sort of considered showing off to say, I can sing, I can dance, I can do this. We're sort of like, oh yeah, I can do that. You know, it's a different sort of thing. So when I got there, and it was people were very bold and couldn't wait to get up and talk about themselves. I was kind of the opposite. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that. I came from a different place, so I had to really push myself, and that's when I learned that I had courage.
Can you speak about some of the things that you have been frightened of, that you have faced, and then because of that have come out the other side?
Well, I've just gone through this at the moment. I hope you're all aware that I've been speaking out about adoption in the world. I have 2 adopted children, and I started speaking up about this because people would come up to me in the street and sort of say, oh, I'd love to adopt, but I can't, it's too hard here in Australia. And I know because I went through the system, and then I just sort of went, why? And I asked this question, and then all of a sudden there was a huge, like I'd opened this huge kahuna, and then all of a sudden the one day I did speak to a journalist because there was a situation that happened. I rang up and I was just so mad about it. I said, what is this? It's outrageous. There's so many children out there. I travelled the world. I've seen how many abandoned kids are out there, and so many Australian families are coming up to me saying, I'd love to parent a child. And I went, what's wrong with this picture? These two should be brought together. What's going on here? So I spoke to a newspaper and said, you know, I just really think this is wrong. Next thing I had the front page of the paper, they said, Deborra Lee and her Action Lobby Group, and I was like, where would they be? And then my publicist rang and said, every television station wanted to speak to me, and blah, blah, blah. And I just stood there going, oh my God. And I had it was sort of a naive, just knee-jerk reaction that I spoke out. I had no backing, I had no research, I knew nothing. And then when I did speak out, I apparently used all the wrong syntax, I said all the wrong words, and I had the anti-adoption culture attacking me, and I was like, oh my God. And there is an anti-adoption culture, which is what I went on to learn. Anyway, where did the question start? I was going...
Fear and then going...
Fear. So my fear was, it was so scary. Next thing the Prime Minister wanted to meet me. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to say? Prime Minister's come for tea. Hi. Really bad. Anyway, so I was terrified. So I had to, but because I was passionate, my passion got me through that. My passion got me through because I saw it was a huge injustice. I'd seen 2-year-olds in the streets of Cambodia on their own. It was shocking to me. So I went about the process. I thought, okay, you've just got to keep talking. And it was really scary because I was in an arena. I'm an actress. You know, I was in an arena that was not my world. Politics is not my world. I believe everyone. I'm very trusting. So you can imagine in that area, I wouldn't do well. You know, but he said. Anyway, so that was what my passion and my empathetic knee-jerk reaction to an injustice that was wrong made me get down and do the work. And here I am 8 years later, and I have studied, I've looked at all the situations, I've spoken to I had a chance to speak in Canberra at the press gallery about this, which was the scariest thing I've ever done in my life. And it's all men in suits. I don't usually meet those people. And so what I did was, I was living in America at the time, and I rang all the big stakeholders in the field in America, and I said, please, I invited them all up for dinner, about 10 of them, please come to my house. I said, I have a forum where I can do this, but you have to educate me. So I just went about, pragmatically, got them there to educate me on what I needed to know, and then ended up speaking at the press gallery, which was not comfortable because I had to basically accuse the Australian government of being anti-adoption and for doing nothing for our kids. And that, you know, to stand up and say something that you really believe in and you don't know what the backlash is going to be is really scary. So that's probably the scariest thing I've ever done.
With, which we'll talk about later, incredible kind of results that have been born out of that 8 years.
Amazing.
Now, I think it's fair to say you have a rather big life.
Kind of big.
And my question is, how do you manage to have a kind of sense of normality in a life that's anything but normal? How do you do that? With media intrusion, those things that we often hear people talk about, how do you actually manage that and deal with that?
It's been a slow process. I mean, when Hugh and I started out, he was working at the National Theatre in London. We went over there, it was his dream to work at the National Theatre in London. We used to save up to buy raspberries. I mean, we went over there, it was, we were poor and we were loving life. We're in London, he was at the National Theatre, and we were travelling to Turkey, we were living this life. It's a journey like anything in life, and it has been a slow evolvement to sort of what you see as success and the journey that we've had. So it ends up becoming, like everyone's life, becomes whatever happens in our life, and we don't know the curveballs that are going to come to us, it becomes a new normal. You have to adjust to it. But yeah, there are in our world, there are some wacky challenges that we have to deal with. And now in this world, which I find really scary, with social media, there is no privacy for anyone, for any citizen, whatever. But obviously, it's harder when you're in the public spotlight and people are looking at you and judging you and expecting things from you. How I see it is as an opportunity. It's like money. It's an energy, it's a force, and it's good and evil. And there's two sides. So, you know, when we started to even make money, it is an opportunity to have grace and how to know how to handle that energy. It is, after all, just energy. Or celebrity is energy. And it's knowing how to navigate it with grace, seeing it for what it is, seeing the illusions that are involved in it, and using it for a good thing. I mean, I got to use the celebrity to bring attention to a huge issue, and we're making a difference. So there's positives and negatives to every side. The hardest thing with the celebrity is the intrusion on a family life. And I have 2 kids, and my son, who's 14, thinks show business is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, he sees children on television, he just calls them show-offs. I mean, he's a nature boy, and he would love Hugh to be a potter, and for me, he's going to teach him how to work the wheel. He thinks it'd be a nice, if that acting ever dries up, Hugh may be a potter. It's not just us. When you step up, even when I stepped up to talk about the adoption, I knew I was going to be asked questions about my kids. It's their story. So you put yourself out there and you have to know how to navigate it. But again, I don't look at the negative of it. I look at the opportunity to learn about myself, how my grace, how I navigate having those opportunities and that I can see. I mean, there's great, always get a table in a restaurant. It's really cool. That's really good. I mean, there are definite perks. But, you know, it's like, you know, God, like I'm going to complain. There are people who have great challenges that they have to navigate. That's a small part of it.
I remember once you said actually about celebrity, if somebody's a decent person before celebrity, they have the opportunity of becoming an even finer human being. And if they're an asshole before celebrity, chances are...
John Travolta actually said that.
Did he?
He said if you're an asshole and you get famous, you're 10 times the asshole. And if you're a really nice person, you're 10 times as nice a person.
What do you put that down to? I know you've already said a little bit about fame and the whole phenomena around celebrity. What do you put it down to? The reason
it just heightens your experience as a human being, and I suppose it just it shines a light on whatever the biggest aspect of you is, I guess.
Yeah. When you were at drama school, and the drama school you went to with Susan...
Which I loved every minute of it.
As did she. What did you...
This woman over here was a rock star in my drama school, by the way, an incredible actress.
And Deborra.
We were both really good.
Well, actually, we never worked together.
I know. We were both leading ladies, so we're always in a
different
different...
play.
Yeah.
We never worked together.
Actually, Susan's spoken a lot about breath as being
Yes.
something, and I noticed the way you both breathe. That really struck me when I met you both, actually. Tell me what it was that you learned at that school that has stood you in good stead over.
The breath, it's so bizarre. We had a teacher, Carol Fox Prescott, who was my mentor. This woman taught me so much. And she used to go on and on about the breath. And I'm like, oh, all right already, can we rehearse? Can we have fun? I used to get so bored with the breath. Let's breathe. Okay. And I was like, and then it's like, with anything, it's like after you do it for a while, and then one day I just went, oh, I get it. But the breath, basically, what is the breath? The breath is just about us being in the moment. And I know before I would go on stage, if I was nervous and before a performance, you know, you get that sort of, you can't breathe. If you're not aligned with that breath, you're lost because it's not your truth. You're ahead of yourself or you're behind yourself. And that's why it was always a thing, bring it back to the breath. She taught me so many little pearls that were so wonderful. Another day, I was doing a month in the country. Do you know that, Turgenev? And I was playing Natalia Petrovna. And I came to rehearsal, I had a bad morning, and I came in, I was really pissy and really shitty. And I had to get into rehearsal, and Natalia was like this elegant woman who was always just charming and lovely. And I went into rehearsal and started to rehearse being charming and lovely, but I wasn't. I'd missed my subway, I was pissed off, da-da-da-da. And I remember Carol Prescott she said, stop right there. And she says, what are you doing? I said, I'm rehearsing, I'm da-da-da. She goes, are you enjoying it? I said, no, I'm not having a good time. She said, well, you come right from that moment. She says, don't give me this. I said, but the character's happy. She says, I don't care. She said, you come exactly from where you're coming from. And I thought, okay, I'll show her. I'll give her a Natalia Petrovna. And I started to I was ready to prove something, and I thought, you can't do this. So I was just totally went into the scene, coming exactly from where I was coming from. Within 1 minute, I was flying, having the time of my life. Completely in the moment with the other actor, because I trusted that the work would do it, and it was because I went back to my breath, I went back to my truth. I wasn't imposing, oh, I've got to act happy, I've got to act like this. And it was one of that moment, it was one of those epiphanies that in that moment, I got it. And so that's why I always, whenever I'm not there or nothing, I just have that moment with the breath, get on the breath, and whatever that be. And if it is a shitty Natalia Petrovna that day, so be it. She's going to be a whole lot more interesting than a Natalia who's trying to be something she's not. And I go back to the authenticity.
When you get cast in something, what's your preparation? What do you tend to do when you get a film role? How do you prepare?
Well, I love the work of Stella Adler. Do you guys do that? She was the greatest script analyst. She did great script analysis. And I always have stuck to my I break down I like to break down a script and not to see the surface. I want to really know what's going on there. And I know when I did the film Shame. Am I still on? Yeah. I did the film Shame, which was one of my favourite characters I've ever played. And there wasn't a lot of dialogue, but she had to be an incredibly strong presence. I have never worked so much on a script to break down, because there wasn't dialogue. I had to know every minute of that scene, every beat. I broke down beat by beat by beat, like literally, as an actor, I feel you can never ever do enough homework. You can always just keep breaking it down that little bit more, giving a history, giving a moment. And I broke down every single beat in every scene. So when I went into that scene, even if I didn't have the words to use to actually go for my objective, I was so solid in what I, as that character, needed and wanted, that energy translated to every action that I did. So even not having those words, I have never felt more stronger in a character, that you could have thrown anything at me in that minute and I would have reacted in character and gone for that, for what I needed. And my golden rule is always, whatever I'm doing, it's that 3 simple things. What do I want? What's in my way? What do I do to get what I want? So my objective, my obstacle, there's always got to be an obstacle or else there's no drama, and my action. So whenever I get in trouble and it's not organically coming when I'm just in the scene and being in the moment, a lot of times I won't have to do that. I can be in the scene and be with the person standing in front of me and go for it. But if I break it, if I'm very clear going in what I want, if I want you to smile at me, I'm going to do what I have to do to get you to smile at me. So just those 3 simple things is always my fallback if it's not happening organically. And I love to be au contraire. I mean, I love to, like if it's a funeral scene, I'll want to get the giggles just because it's not expected. I love going against what is expected. I remember many times, doing scenes with actors, and I'll start giggling, and then the actor, so sorry, cut. And I'm like, no, there's the magic. I love it when things go wrong. And I love working with kids and animals and dogs, because you don't know. And to me, that makes me alive. And that is, to me, when you get the magic of the unexpected, because we always think, oh, this would happen in a sad scene, we're all going to be sad. No, I actually personally do get the giggles at funerals. It's really embarrassing, but
in fact,
it's my nervous energy.
She got the giggles at my mother's funeral. I remember we were in Elisa's car, a group of friends, and we lost the funeral car. So we went from being incredibly serious to hysterical with laughter, and this was a woman, I can tell you, I loved dearly. So you're absolutely right about the unexpected.
Don't invite me to your funeral.
Directing. What do you regard as a good director? And when you have directed, what are the things that you enjoy about directing, and also what are some of the challenges of directing?
I really love directing, and I think I when I was in drama school, I think I was a director because I was always like, no, you should be doing this, and like the director looking like, I'm sorry. I'm a very aesthetic person. I can see, I'm very visual. I love directing because it's a different canvas. It's not like acting. It's completely different. A good director to me is someone who can communicate. And what I find interesting is so many times I work with directors who are terrible communicators, and yet they the end result gets there. But I think a director has to be able to communicate his vision. He has to trust. I think the best thing a director can do is in a casting, that when you cast, you have to believe in whoever you're casting and let them do their thing. It is a dance between two. I remember my first film, actually, the director said to me in a scene, he said, you know, I'd like you to cry in this scene. And I was like, or in this moment, this particular moment, which I was like, oh, which cheek? I mean, to me, that just seemed ridiculous to pinpoint it down to this one thing. It had to be an organic experience. And also, I completely disagreed with him. It was my first job. I was, you know, so excited to have the job, and I was disagreeing with the director. But I held my ground, and I ended up didn't doing it because I thought it was too sentimental and wrong. And he actually came up to me at the premiere and said, thank you for that moment. So I go back to being authentic and sticking to you, because if you go, whenever I've gone against my grain and done something I don't like, I hate it, it doesn't feel right. But a good director is someone who, you know, who he has got to trust his actors, and he's got to have a very clear vision. And so many times producers have said to me, what ends up on the screen is the director's personality. So much of who the director is, it's the personality.
Deb, just a question. What's the difference between working in the United States and Australia as an actor for you?
In the United States, well, in the United States, it's like you get treated like a spoiled child, and here's your trailer, and what can we get you? I remember going from a film in LA to being completely pampered to a ridiculous degree, and what else do you need, and trailers and where they're positioned. And I'm literally, when I shot Waiting, it was a film out in the Hunter Valley, and I'm standing in marsh with leeches and like, can I have a chair? But the actual process is no different if you're making a film on Glen Huntly Road or in Hollywood. The process is the process, and I always approach it the same way. And it's playing. We go out to play. When I go to work as an actor, you've got to totally take that, you know, grown-up, practical person and put them aside, and send your kid out to just be there and be present. And I love bouncing off. I love really connecting to another actor and taking from them. I don't want to go in with too many things set up, like I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I want to go in with what I want, but I don't want to set it up. I want to see what happens. That to me is the joy, is when you're working with another actor and you take that smile or that grimace, or why is he doing that? And that keeps me so busy and engaged that I'm no longer acting. I hate acting. I get embarrassed. If I'm acting and I feel myself acting, I'm humiliated. I feel like a real jerk. I don't like to act. So whenever I'm doing something, I have to 100% be there believing. And I can do that no matter what the scenario is within the scene. My objective is to get you to come over here and sit on my knee. You know, I'm just pursuing that. So I can believe that. And I can do everything how I would want to do that to make that happen. So yeah, when I see myself acting and stuff, I just am it's embarrassing. Hate it.
There are a lot of actors here who probably wish to go to the United States at some point. Do you have any advice for young actors who want to go over to the United States to work?
Go. Great. Well, I went as young. I mean, Kim was in London. I visited you in London. But it was, and then I ended up going to New York to study. New York was much more my sensibility. Everyone was a little wacky, and England, they were just so polite. I was like, what is that? New York was like, get out of my way, I don't like you. It's like the Australian. I just sort of related to that more. By the way, I ran into Colin Firth, who Kim was in drama school. I ran into him the other day and I said, oh, actually, I'm going to speak at 16th Street. Kim Courageous, he said, oh, every guy in drama school is in love with Kim Courageous.
Deb, I'd love to just turn it over to everybody here now and just any questions that you might have that you'd like to ask. And you don't need a microphone, just speak loudly. Anybody got a question?
Hello. I'd love to know how you financially made it work, the stretch of going over to New York to study there, with all the differences, like how we get Centrelink here, over there, it's hard, and the funding, how expensive it is to study at harder.
You know what? Again, with that naivete that I had, I was like, I just saw money as energy. And I was like, I want to do that, I'm going to get there. And I literally, Susan's ex-husband, I was door bitch at inflation at a nightclub. I had 3 jobs. I was a secretary, I was on the door, I worked here. I had 3 jobs. I got accepted to the American Academy, came back to Australia and worked 3 jobs to get over there. And then when I got over there, I had to have part-time work, and I remember I used to work for you know those people that call you up really annoying at home and go, hi, this is Deborra Lee calling from the Roper Pole. Hello. And I use it to test out all my American accents, because that was like my homework. Hey there, Deborra Lee calling from the Roper Pole. And I use it as my homework, working on American accents every night. So I just made it work. And I believe if you want something, you find a way. And so, yeah, I worked my butt up. I had part-time jobs, and you know, my mum helped me, but that's how I got through drama school in New York.
Anybody else? Don't be shy, please.
Hello.
What about with with the whole visa thing? Like that's where I'm
You're
at
really
right
going to
now.
practicalities here.
Yeah, that's where I'm at right now on the visa thing. It's quite challenging, especially for an O1 visa. It's getting even harder. So,
It is.
Yeah.
You know, we all had those dramas, and I've got so many, Naomi Watts and all of us. I don't know how we did it, but we managed somehow to do it. And I know it's getting harder.
Just if you want to, just keep going.
Otherwise, I know some really cute American boys that I can set you up with. Where there's a will, there's a way. David Chin.
That's right.
Let's not go.
Anybody else? Just over here, Tabitha.
Hi, how do you manage with kids? How do you keep them safe and all that kind of stuff? Manage it so that you still have that artistic lifestyle. I know there's celebrity involved in it. People know you, start to sort of look at you. How do you manage that with kids?
Well, we don't live in that world. I mean, that's what is in the magazines, and that's what people perceive, and that's what people put on you. We live a very normal life, and if my kids are interested in acting, I'm like, great, you go and do the school play. I would not send them out there into the professional world. I've worked with children of an age. I mean, I literally remember sitting at casting calls with like 10 8-year-old boys, and they were like, you know, hey, I did the film with De Niro. Like, all they need is a cigar. Like, they're 8 years old. It's not a place for kids to do that. So if my kids are interested in acting, I would send them to drama school. My son's an artist, my daughter's hip-hop and this, that. I encourage them. They see our life, and they you know, obviously they're learning by osmosis that mum and dad, they're like, we're out there, we're in the world, we're doing things. But they're doing their thing. I mean, we really are very normal within our world, and then we go out and play that role of, you know, and I think it's a lot of people's perceptions. People put things like, I know people have sort of met us and gone, oh, they're really nice. I don't know why we're supposed to be assholes, but apparently if you're famous, you get all this, you get things put on you. It's not. We act for a living. We pretend for a living. We're actors, you know. We are artists. I mean, I want my children to be creative, and so I supply them with that. I take them to the theatre. Mind you, I'm going to Sydney next week and I want to see Strictly Ballroom. And I said to Ava, you want to go see Strictly Ballroom? No, I'm not going to the theatre. I said, I'll give you $50. She said, okay. I'm paying my daughter to come to the theatre.
Just over here.
As far as being in a relationship with someone who's an actor as well, two working actors, how do you navigate certain things like time spent working apart and also...
We never have more than 2 weeks apart. And we manage our life. I'll just give you the rundown now. We've just been in Europe, in London, for that Hughes shooting Pan, and he chooses to work in the summer. So we all went to London for the summer, but he was playing Blackbeard, so he's not in it all the time. The kid playing Pan is an 11-year-old Australian boy from Brisbane who's awesome. So we got to go to Europe. We had like a summer holiday. We make our profession work for us, and like when we go back, Hugh's doing Broadway. And we sort of said we'd never work at the same time. He got really greedy and did all the work, but that was a choice. I'm also an artist, so I have another creative life, and I had waited so long for I wanted to be full on with the kids, and I'm doing that, but I am considering going back. I'm thinking about directing, and if that happens, then Hugh won't work for a year and he'll look after the kids. Like when I did Ginderbine, he came there. We are always present, and the family is always first. The kids are always first. So, and we're very involved in each other's creative lives. So, you know, we work together and we make it work. And if a choice comes up and it doesn't work for the family, like if we've got to shoot in Siberia, no, we're not doing it. It's not going to work. So he's going on to Broadway now, so he can do the drop-off early morning and I can get to sleep in.
Just actually speaking about that, so I'll just ask this question. What are you thinking of directing? Have you got any scripts that you're looking at?
I'm looking at one at the moment, which I don't. It's been given to me, and apparently it's a wonderful documentary. It's about a group of 80-year-old people.
Oh, I love it.
Who travel the world, and it's apparently an amazing doco, and there's a script to go with it, and yeah, I'm going to check it out. But I wanted to. I'd love. You know, we always laugh about this, but I'd love to do a comedy too. I would love to do something fun. I'm thinking about the M word, do a film about menopause. Because I know so many people that, and no one talks about it. So I don't know. I mean, I'm open to suggestions. Anyone's got great scripts, I'll look at them.
I think you should do one here, do the comedy here in Australia.
Think so too, maybe I
okay,
will.
we'll work
and
on
my
it.
kids love coming down here.
Okay, all right.
Done. You can all come to the casting session. You're not going to be in the 80-year-old one, but maybe the grandkids.
Who else? Yes, Will, and then in front. Yeah, Helen. Will?
When you're starting out and things are tough and you're auditioning, are there times when you become filled with self-doubt, and how do you stay up?
Daily.
And how do you get through it, I suppose?
I think I'm just a little arrogant. They've got such bad taste. You can't take this business personally. You're too short, you're too tall, you're too blonde. You can't, you've just got to, it comes back to that confidence. You just got to back yourself, you got to trust yourself. You know, like Danny DeVito, people like that, you think he would have gone out there thinking, I'm going to make a career of this? I mean, who knew? How can you tell if you're going to do it? You don't know. It is a leap of faith, and you just got to go, I'm going to give it a go. And I think that's the Australian thing. You know, we have that as a culture. We give it a go. And we've got an inbuilt sort of confidence and an authenticity who we are. We're sort of down to earth. Like the journalist before asked me why Australians are doing so well out there. And I think it is because of our personality. We do say, oh yeah, I'll give it a go. And we have a sort of a cocky, like, yeah, I can do that. And it is a leap of faith, and it is a courage. I didn't know if I could act. You don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, what were you going to ask?
I remember you talked earlier about how you said, you know, you missed your subway, and you were talking about how you had that shitty attitude and about that breathe kind of thing. For you, I guess my kind of question is around when the script doesn't kind of fit it. I'm kind of still wrestling with that. With if that stage directions and all that don't fit with your shitty mood, how does that kind of, how do you work through that shitty mood? I guess come from where you are.
Just be shitty. Yeah. You just have to trust me on that one. I wasn't buying it either. You just be real where you are. Because you know what? You're going to be really boring, to be honest. You're going to be really boring if you're shitty and you go, hi, how are you? And you're doing all that. People know. People will see through that. They're not going to buy it. And how interesting if your words are that so fabulous to see you, and if you're shitty, so fabulous to see you, and you just, you know, like that. It'll be what it'll be. And that happened to me in Torch Song Trilogy. I was on stage, and I go up very easily. Like, you can just give me glit in the eye, and I'm amused. And I was there with Tony Sheldon. I'm with Tony Sheldon. It's all on me. I'm centre stage. He's kneeling up towards me, and I'm about to have, it's my big moment, my big breakdown, how my boyfriend is gay and he left me and it's tragic, and it was like my huge, big, dramatic moment. Well, Tony's there looking up at me, back to the audience, and did this look in his face, which just, I was thigh-slappingly hysterical with laughter. So I delivered my entire thing about my boyfriend left me there, but literally thigh-slapping, hysterical laughter. It was brilliant. I couldn't believe it, and the more hysterical I went, he's looking at me again. It's like, what? And I actually stole the show that night. Quite fabulous. So who knew? It was another choice. And as we know, when we're hysterical, you know, or we're sad, we can go do that.
Yeah.
And it actually really worked in a brilliant way, and I wish I'd thought of it before.
So you spoke about the energy of money and celebrity and how you're, really using that to make a difference in the world and contribute and all that sort of thing. I was just wondering, when you started off, like, you're off to America, what was your sort of artistic inspiration then? Did you have that sort of intention at all on that
To
level?
be a celebrity?
Or, no, to make that sort of difference in the world, or
No.
were you like, oh, I want to be famous, or
No.
like, what was
You know what it
Actually,
was?
that's not true. What? Because I remember early days, and I spoke to you, I said, I think we should go to a soup kitchen, and we should work at a soup kitchen, and you said, no, I'm going to save the starving children of the world. I remember that.
Yeah, I was always, you know, outspoken about. But that was a separate thing to my acting. I was always hated injustice, and I was always, fighting for justice. That was a separate thing. But when I set off to do this, I mean, literally in school, I was a little ADD, and I was like, you know, and I thought, oh, I'm going to be when I grow up, whatever. And I was the class clown. So I used to make people laugh. And I remember someone said, you should do that for a living. And I went, I can get paid to do that? And it was literally, I didn't know what I was saying. I thought, oh, well. And I think that was why, because I thought, I was surprised that you could get paid and make a living out of just making people laugh. So I think that's why I set out to do it. Plus, I had grown up an only child. And so I had a huge imaginary world. I was always had to create my own fantasy worlds, and I was a playful child. And I think I was very young. I stayed younger than most. I stayed at the party longer than most, I think. And still, I have Arrested Development, and I can't believe I'm a grown-up. I look at my peers playing the old people and go, oh my God. And just think I'm not there, but apparently I am. So I went off to play. I went off, it was to have fun. But you know when I got it? When I did the character in Shame. Who's seen Shame? Does anyone see Shame here? It's a movie that I did. It was a great film. It was about injustice, which is why I really connect to, about a young girl that had been raped in the outback. And instead of a guy on a horse, the cowboy coming into town, it was a girl on a motorbike that comes in to save the day. And I did this film, which I loved, and then when I travelled around the world to promote it, I would be at these events and people would show up, like girls who had been through this, and would thank me for putting their story up there. And that was when the penny dropped. I went, oh my God, through my work, I can really affect people. This is not just, you know, put on a funny nose and make them laugh. It was like, wow, this medium is profound in how it can make a difference to people, how it can express what is going on in the world. So that was when I first got the vocation I had chosen was really important.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Bryce?
I was at a Q&A the other day with an actor, and he spoke about a script that he read, and he couldn't imagine himself doing the role, so much so that he
would feel uncomfortable on set. And I was wondering if you could speak a bit about the difference between, as an actor or an artist, taking a risk and then also knowing that you're not going to feel safe as an artist, and like where that divide is for you as an actress.
Well, that comes down to, it's like there are times when you take a risk and there's times when you just go pragmatically, this is not good casting, even if it's you. I mean, I went for an audition as a nun. And I walked in and they went, hi, Deb. I mean, literally, it was so obvious I was not going to pull off this subservient sort of it was not in my being. Another time my agent made me go for an audition as an anorexic. I was humiliated. I'm chubby. And I walked in and apologized like this. I said, no, I'm sorry, you made me come. So there are times when you just got to go, this is not right, and advocate for yourself. Yeah. I like risk taking, but there was a certain time that the anorexic was never going to work.
You speak about how you've always seemed to the way you've spoken, that you've kind of known who you are in this business and as a person. And I think that's kind of really rare because the whole industry is so kind of, I fear it's sort of pressing down on you to conform to a certain way. Have you always being a new person or a newbie going into to the States and then into work, have you always kind of had that sense of being able to be who you are and say, no, I can't do that role because it's not right for me? Or did you ever feel the pressure of the whole kind of industry weighing down on you to change?
Yeah, no, I remember when we first started going out auditioning from drama school, we had to get our headshots. And I remember they made me get a headshot with a white little, those little Peter Pan collar, because they said, oh, you need your commercial. That was the commercial shot. And you had to look like a regular girl to sell toothpaste. And so I had this thing and the hair, and I'm like, it's ridiculous. I look ridiculous. So yeah, I felt the pressure. And then when I'd go into auditions, I had to go in and be American because they'd be intimidated if I was Australian. So I felt the pressure that I had to conform to hi there, Deborah, and sort of do all that. And then I went, no, I'll walk in as an Australian, I'm an actor, and I can do an American accent. So it took me a while, but at first when you come out of school, you're sort of intimidated and you try to conform to that, all-American girl. That was the way. I was not going to get cast as an all-American girl because I was not an all-American girl. I didn't have that energy about me. So yeah, it took me a while, but no, I had to navigate that. Yeah.
Here and then Bobby, Julie.
What's the most amazing project that you've ever worked on, whether it be film or whatever, for yourself?
For me, I directed a short film in London. I have to say that I loved that. I loved creating it from scratch and having a vision. That was what was so awesome, to have a vision and I wrote the piece, I had the vision, and then when you get a whole team of people to realize your vision and it comes to life, is beyond exhilarating. And then when I had to cast this, it was only a short film, and I had to cast it, and I wanted Michael Gambon. Do you want to know Michael Gambon? It's this extraordinary actor, and everyone said, you can't ask him. And I went, yeah, I can. And I asked him, and then literally they ran back and he said yes, and we all went, you're kidding? It was so exciting. And I got this killer cast. I had Joanna Lumley, I had Michael Gambon, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I shot in the middle of London. I got my money from Harvey Weinstein in New York. And then Trudy Starling gave me money. Anyway, I collected money here, and then when I shot in London, the corner I chose to shoot on was not one but 3 councils. You know what London's like with their rules. So I couldn't put the camera here, I couldn't put it there, and then the night before we're shooting, it was outside a theatre, and they thought it was the vagina monologues. And they thought, because we're filming, they'd lose passing by trade. So the night before we're shooting, and I've done all my shot lists, they pulled the thing. I was like, oh my God, and I'm running around the rain trying to find another location. And then I just literally the next day rang them. They wouldn't take my calls, and I rang them until it was the end of the day, and the secretary had gone home. I said, hi, it's Deborah. I said, please, you've got to let me do this. I said, I'll have my whole crew wear, sandwich boards with the vagina monologues on or whatever. Anyway, and then we came to shoot. It was pouring with rain. I had every hurdle you can imagine and pulled it off. And film is about, you have to, it's like marriage, you have to accept compromise, and I hate compromise. I want to get everything I want to get. So, and I pretty much pulled it off, getting everything I get. And I was so proud of that because I fought long and hard, but it was a different canvas. It's like, it was coming from your head and then trying to tell. That's what a good director is, being able to share with the whole crew so that they can get the same vision to realise what it is. You can Google, I think, it's called Standing Room Only. It's a whimsical little 11-minute piece. And that's, yeah, so my dream is when I grow up is to direct a full-length feature.
Because that short film is actually based on an experience that you and Hugh had. Yeah,
Yes.
when you went to the theatre. Do you want to?
Okay. No, Hugh and I were in New York and we were just there for a minute, and Al Pacino was doing...
American Buffalo?
No, it was another obscure play, and we wanted to go and see it. So we'd wake up every morning and go and stand in line to get tickets. And we went the first morning, we missed out. So we set the alarm early. The next morning we missed out. The third morning got up really early, and we actually got in line. It was only going to be the first 8 people there that got the tickets. So we stood in line for 3 hours until the box office opened. In that time, we met the other people that were standing in line. There was a father whose son from New Jersey, his son wanted to be an actor, and he so didn't want him to be an actor, but he loved his son. So this was his birthday present. He was going to take him to see Al Pacino. There was many stories. Anyway, so we sat there, we had this time bonding, and then that night we get to go there. So it was all us, we all saw each other at the theatre, like, we got in, we're going to have tickets. And then they said, oh, guess what? People didn't show up. We all got seats. We didn't even have to have standing room only. So we all got seats. And Hugh and I, like, right down the front. There's Al Pacino right there. And we made the moment. And it was hysterical because I'd gotten up 3 mornings in a row. I was so tired. He's doing his monologue. I was out cold. Hugh's like jabbing me, like, I'm like, all right. But that's not the moral of the story. The moral of the story was, I just thought, I just loved the fact that this was the big moment and that I fell asleep in. This is what I wanted. But in the pursuit of getting there, I had the most extraordinary experience and connection with meeting these amazing people. And it's like life happens when you're not expecting it. And that was one of those. And I just thought, what a lovely message in my short film. To say life happens when you least expect it. And we thought it was about seeing Al Pacino. It actually wasn't.
Bobby?
You've been going for ages. You've got to talk.
Do you have a particular role, either a hero or villain or anything that you just absolutely live for and find for?
No. No, but I have to say, I do go back to Shane. She was my favourite character I ever played because she was probably like me. She was a justice freak. She was very different to me, as she was very grounded and very still, and I'm not. I'm all over the shop, so that was a challenge. But I loved her fight for justice. So yeah, I love positive female roles, and this is what's harder for when you get older. As an actor, like I get these scripts, and it's like we're not writing fabulous roles for women that are just not, depressed middle-aged housewives. So I like a woman who's got something to say, or if it's good, I want a life-changing moment. I love relationship films. I love it when it's the meat and potatoes, it's the interaction that is happening. So I love all those dark Danish dogma films. Festen, did everyone see Festen? It was shocking and I loved it.
So yeah, what do you think about the way women are represented in film?
Well, especially, older women, it's not great. And everyone says, oh, Susan Sarandon. Yeah, she's the only one that's getting work. Bully for Susan. She gets to play ping pong with a teenager. It's a good joke. But no, we need more female writers, and we need to change the image of women out there. We need to, put it out there what we want to see. I want a role model. I want a role model who's, in her 50s or 60s or 90s or wherever she is. So yeah, I want more stories about that.
Do you have a role model, someone that you just admire so much, and I don't know, that you just...
I have many role models of people that you wouldn't know that I meet that are extraordinary people. I have to say Meryl Streep has to be one of my favourite actresses. I think she's just extraordinary. But no, I have many role models. one sitting right next to me, you know. She had a dream and a passion and she pursued it, and we're all sitting here now, and you guys are getting the benefit of you know, what she's bringing to you. And I said before, you know, wherever we are in the world, if there's someone interesting, Kim will be hitting on and say, right, you've got to come talk 16th Street. And we're gonna do. So she's always out there spruiking for you guys. You know, as I said, when we were younger, we had to, you know, we travelled the world. There was NIDA. Whopper wasn't that well known here. We had to go to the other side of the world. And now, you know, Kim is out there bringing the world here. She's always in New York sleeping on my floor, finding going to classes and pursuing great people to come here and share it, you know, with Australia. And, you know, because we're a long way from the rest of the world. There's people in Europe and America, and we all need to share our stuff and nick ideas and share them.
Hi. Out of all the actors out there, what made Hugh stand out for you?
Have you seen my husband? I just had to say that. When I worked with you, and I'd worked with Sam Shepard. I mean, I've worked with a lot of really good actors. And I got to tell you, when I worked with this, I'm like, what, Jack Human? Who is this guy? Never heard of him. When we first started. And literally going to work, when we would get in there and go to work, it was the most exhilarating tennis game I've ever played. We had a way, just acting with him. And I was so busy. It was Corelli, it was my series. I was the criminal psychologist. And so I was beyond busy because I had all these criminals. I was their psychologist. They grunted at me. I had all the dialogue. So I'd be like at night just like learning all this dialogue. I didn't have time to be even thinking of that. But literally, when I worked with him, there was whatever it was that we had, apart from the acting, there was a connection, but he was thrilling to dance with. And I just found myself at times, like when he wasn't on set, like, oh, where's Hugh? And my New Year's resolution was, not dating any actors, especially none under 30. I'm full of shit. I married him. And he's still one of the most exciting actors I know.
And actually, I'd just like to say two things actually. Susan Gorans, who did train with Deb, teaches at 16th Street, but also I feel absolutely delighted that Chris Edmund, who was one of Hugh's major teachers at Whopper and who ran Whopper for over 25 years, has now moved to Melbourne and is teaching at 16th Street. So it's wonderful to have you here, Chris.
I just wanted to say I happened upon Corelli one night, the first episode, and I couldn't tear myself away from it. It was sizzling on screen.
Thank you.
See the connection, it was amazing.
Yeah, I remember after we had gotten together about 5 minutes into the run, you and I were at the supermarket, and the checkout chick looks at us together and says, I knew it was too good to be acting.
Would you direct an amazing Australian story?
Of course. Go on. Let's do it. Yeah.
In the changing landscape of adoption in Australia, what advice would you have to people who want to adopt here?
Well, we're now, you know, we're talking with the politicians and they're actually changing legislation, so it is going to happen. They're going to have someone in charge. They're going to halve the time and double the amount of kids that can be adopted. So for people who are wanting to adopt, yes, and apply pressure and go to adoptchange.org.au and sign up as an ally, because the more people we have out there that are saying, come on, let's do it. And I'm pushing for yesterday. It's like, it's got to happen ASAP. So no, there's absolutely, it's going to be a much better landscape.
Yeah, I noticed that you spent some time in Africa.
Mm.
And I was wondering, what was the highlight of your experience over there? And also, what do you see as the greatest need over there, particularly for children?
The greatest need?
Yeah, and the highlight.
Okay, well, I was blessed. I got the opportunity to go with President Clinton on a delegation. So there was like 30 people that were invited to go on a delegation to do 8 African countries in 6 days. So we literally would rock up into a town and see all the Clinton Global initiatives like microfinance. We'd visit villages where women were empowered. They were given micro loans so that they could set up their fabric business or a coffee business, AIDS initiatives. I went, I'm a friend of Chelsea Clinton, and Chelsea's the one that asked me to come along. I went because I talk about what it's like for orphans in the world, and I sort of see it from the outskirts. But I thought if I go along this way and I was right on the front line, I would really see what it's like. Like I'd go to villages and all these kids would be there, and I'm like, who are the ones that, who's got parents? And it was so vague as you had parents. And some of these kids would be there at the school, but they'd just sort of be taken home by one of the other families. I wanted to know what it was really like for them. So for me, being in the villages, talking to the local, you know, mayors, you know, we got to meet presidents, and I got to voice to them how I see the need that they need to step up and do something about their children. So it gave me the opportunity to speak to, you know, people in positions of power that can make a difference. So, and the greatest need in Africa, oh my God, this is the corruption and the complexities over there, and now with this Ebola outbreak, I mean, you've got all this in Sudan. I mean, there's so much going on there on so many levels, and there's such great need. It's people like Clinton Global Initiative going in. I've just worked with Tony Blair. Tony Blair created a faith foundation, which is about why can't we all get along. Basically, because as we know, religion is the cause of so much conflict that's happening in the world. So I can do my little bit by working with him. He's going around to different countries trying to get the Muslim to speak to. He's got this great initiative basically where, and I got Guy Sebastian, I directed a little promo piece for him, and I used, you know, Guy Sebastian's Why Can't We Just Get Along, the most beautiful song, and I edited my whole piece to this thing, and then rang Guy, I said, please, you've got to give me the rights. I didn't even know if he was going to let it. And he turned down World Vision. I thought I got no hope, but we got it. So Guy Sebastian is a hero. Anyway, I cut this beautiful piece together, and Tony Blair's created this initiative whereby he has kids in New York have these phone conferences with kids in Jordan, and they talk to each other and they go, oh yeah, we thought you all wore cowboy hats, and we thought you were all terrorists. And kids at a young age having discussion and saying, oh, and you're not like that, oh, you're like that. They're starting the discussion now. So what is needed in Africa is understanding and this stop of prejudice. I mean, we see what's happening with terrorism. Like we see someone in Islamic, I mean, it's automatically, there's a prejudice, there's something set up there. So we've got to keep talking and say, you're different, but that's okay. What's different about you? And you just see it when you see these conferences with the kids. They're teenagers, but they're intelligent, and they've sort of, it's diffused all that. And they're not taking on their parents' stuff that they've learned as well. So we've got to keep talking. I mean, you know, it's diabolical what's happening at the moment. Syria and Iraq and what's just happened recently. So there's got to be discussion, there's got to be understanding, and that the bottom line is it's complete ignorance, because we are all still the same. I don't care if you've got the Muslim shorts on or the Christian shorts or whatever shorts you've got on. It's football teams, and stop it. And we should be allowed to have our own views and just acceptance. We judge, and it's complete ignorance. Anyway, that was a long answer.
That's good.
So we've only got time for one more question. So Maya, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, I just got a quick question. What would be your advice for someone who wants to get involved at a grassroots level in fighting for justice over there in the world?
Well, that's exactly what I did. You know what? As I said before, I saw something that was wrong, and I just said it's wrong. Admittedly, I had the opportunity to speak to a newspaper because I had a little, you know, notoriety. I have seen people do this though. And you know what? Passion can carry. That's what I've learned. That passion can carry you far, because it's been really hard at times, especially when I've been attacked for what I'm saying. And thank God, my passion has kept me going and kept me at the will. And also when I go and I see a child or I meet a young kid. I've had a young kid come to me recently, and she said, I came from Ethiopia as a child, and thank God I was adopted. And it's those little moments that go, okay, I can keep going a bit further. But if you really truly believe in something and you're passionate about it, I mean, you can start with volunteering, you can start your own initiative, and the littlest thing, the littlest ripple can make a huge difference. I think 8, 9 years ago, I just rang up a newspaper and said this is bullshit, but here I am standing here now, 8 years later. I met with Tony Abbott in New York, and he's telling me we're changing legislation. I'm gobsmacked. And it taught me, like, wow, if you really keep at something, it can work. And I've had a great amount of people along the way who've all been players as well and helped me do it. So yeah, you know, it grows, unity, and the more of us that do it, and it works.
Deb, thank you so much for coming along, and we're just so delighted that you are the patron of this studio. You're a woman who really truly does lead by example, and I'm just so grateful that you agreed to be the patron of this
I'm
studio.
thrilled to be a patron, and I'm looking forward. I can come back and see some performances and be a part of it. And I'll drag Hugh along next time. He'll give you a few talks about how to be a superhero.